As we always say, we'll be learning for the Menucha of Sir Moshe Montefiore and Sir Naim Dangur. We are continuing Unit 35 here in the context of how we subsume, how we mavliya the Shabbat earning in other earning. We're on page 8. And Rabbi Yoel, you were supposed to remind me to do that. Now we can see. So we've seen the Gemara in Ketubot that talked about how the husband or wife lose or gain the Ketubah money based on how long the merid goes on for. But there's a basic question. The Gemara there says that every week we add or subtract money to the Ketubah. Now, if we do that every week, presumably that shouldn't be a problem, right? I want to remind us what I said a moment ago about, sorry, why is this stuck? Why is this stuck? Sorry. The Tosefta we started with, it said, Shabbat, that if you're getting paid for the whole week, Shabbat, it's not a problem, right? You could work on Shabbat and earn on Shabbat as long as it's a weekly payment. The Braita in Ketubot, the Mishnah, but page 3. I just jumped to the beginning just to mention that, right? Just to mention that aspect. The Mishnah on page 3, right? It says, "Pochtin b'ktubata 7 dinarin b'Shabbat, mosifin b'ktubata 3 dinarin b'Shabbat." So there's a weekly payment. So l'chora, that shouldn't be a problem, right? If you go by weekly payment. So this is not my question. It's the Ran's question on page, we said, 8. The Ran says the following: Amrinan. So why is it asks the Ran, why is it that in this case we are worried about the schar Shabbat even though it's a weekly payment? It says the Ran hachasu mishum delo have havla'a shein mosifim lekol Shabbat ela ma she'oleh kol yom vayom shemitpayes hayom hamachar be'emtza hashavua im nitzarfin kol shivat yemei hashavua ze im ze. So this is the Ran like this: when we get our monthly salary, it's a monthly salary. Generally, most of us, when we get our paycheck, what we're getting is a monthly salary. It's not usually divided into how many days you actually worked. I know some of you have asked, what happens if it is? The Ran seems to imply that if we did that, that would be a problem. In other words, since it's assumed that every single day of the merid adds or subtracts the money from the ketubah, then it's a problem. So our monthly paychecks are fine, but if it would be written, this is your month, this is right for 20 days of work during this month, that seems to be a bigger problem based on this Ran. He says, since it's very clearly a daily basis thing, and how does he prove that it's based on the daily basis, including Shabbat? What happens if someone changes their mind? Let's say the merid starts on Wednesday. So Beit Din say on Wednesday, okay, from now we're going to start counting a week, right? So a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by. The 4th week, on Friday, the husband says, you know what, I'm done. Let's get together again. We're not going to say, well, we started the week Wednesday, so let's finish the week. We say, okay, so count 2 more days. That's 2 more dinarin or whatever it was, right? That shows that had you waited till Shabbat, we'd be counting the Shabbat time. And therefore, also the first 3 weeks, was counted on a daily basis. So we call it a weekly payment, but really it's a daily payment. That seems to be the Ran's point.
It doesn't have to be that way.
There or here?
There.
Okay.
A lot of times in contracts, you write for any week or part of a week.
So that's very good. So the Ran emphasizes that over here, right? It's not like that.
You could say that it is like that. You could argue that maybe what it is, in fact, a weekly tariff, and either part of a week is like 0, part of a week is like 1.
Right. So that what Yaakov's saying, I don't know if the Zoom people heard it, but we'll see it instead of that. We'll see it in the Magen Avraham. We'll see it in the Magen Avraham in a moment. Let's first see Shibul Aleket. Says Shibul Aleket is such a skill right? We said there's a lot of parallel between renting out my things and working, right? So it's such a skill b'ema lechavero, im meskir liyamim, אינו נותן לו שכרו של שבת. אם מזכיר לחודש ואמר, כך וכך תיתן לי בחודש שיבוא כך וכך ליום, if you say next month is a 30-day month. Next month is a 31-day month. So if it's 30 days, I'll give you 3,000. If it's 31, I'll give you 3,100, right? Then he says would be a problem. Based on the same idea. Since it's very explicitly based on the number of days, that's a problem. And if I stop in the middle of the month, so again, you could write in the contract that I'm giving you the month, I don't care if you stop in the middle, right? That might be a solution for the Ran, but Shiur doesn't seem to worry about that. He says, and he doesn't see that as a kula, sorry. Shiur seems to say, if it's explicit that you're getting based on the days, which is what's happening to both, it's a problem, even though it's a monthly salary. The Rama says this in the Darkei Moshe. And the Rama. So even though it's a monthly salary, since based on the number, explicitly based on the number of days, it's still a problem. And the Rama brings us to halacha. Therefore, Magen Avraham, there's Yaakov jumped the gun before, but Magen Avraham, based on this, says that Malvim beribit צריכים להלוות בעניין שאם יפרע באמצע שבוע, יפרע מכל השבוע כולו, לא יפרעו כלל. Meaning, if you're going to have a weekly, if you can make a weekly or a monthly, and you have to say in advance, we're not counting the days. You could say it's 700 for the week. You could say it's 3,000 for the month. Whatever.
It's the same thing for all the Chagim as well, right?
Yes. Right. Chagim are the same. Yes. But so says the Magen Avraham, the way out of this is to say I'm paying that part of a month, part of a week, part of the month, part of the week will be the same. You're going to count, or you can count the weeks, right? You can say I don't want to go for a full month. If I go 3 weeks, 3 days in, say okay, so you'll pay or not pay for part of a week. That way you get out of, that way you avoid, even if you do base it on the number of days that are expected, still you could get out of it. But the idea is if it's explicit and obvious that the reason that the way you're counting the earnings is based on the number of days, it'll still be a problem, even if you get a paycheck once a month. Getting a paycheck once a month doesn't solve that problem. But the Beit Yosef disagrees. Yosef says, there, he brings he quotes the Rambam, he quotes others. He says, I haven't found anyone else who was concerned about this. This is something the Ran invented. Shiur could went with him, but I haven't seen anyone concerned about this, and therefore I don't see it as a problem at all. If you get a monthly paycheck, I don't care about how it was, even if it seems to be explicitly calculated, it's not a problem. Now the question, of course, is, so the Magen Avraham points out, first of all, right, Magen Avraham right after the Beit Yosef says, apparently you didn't see the Ran. Because how can you say I haven't seen the poskim say this? You have the Ran, he didn't invent this himself. But more importantly, how does he solve the problem in Ketubot? Right, the Gemara in Ketubot, the Mishnah in Ketubot seems to say there's a weekly change, and that implies Schar Shabbat. Right, that's similar enough to Schar Shabbat to be say it's a problem, even though it's on a weekly basis. So the Shvud Yaakov solves this. The Shvud Yaakov says like this: there's a very big difference. Let's pay attention to a specific point in the Ran. It's an interesting diuk. The Ran emphasizes right? If you change your mind in the middle of the week, so then we'll say, okay, but we're done here. We're not going to add any more. We're not going to add or subtract anymore. Now, if you make a contract with someone, do you say, well, if you want, you can just stop working before Shabbat and then it won't be Schar Shabbat, and therefore it's not a problem. Or stop working midweek, right? Is that how you think? Is that how you think about the contract? Now, technically, it's true that no one can. We're free people. Avadayim v'lavadim lavadim. That's actually the source of the fact that a worker could stop working whenever he wants. But there's no such thing. You might be fined. You might lose your wages. You might, etc. But there's no such thing that you have to work. Halacha does not recognize such a situation. But, says the Shvut Yaakov, there's a very big difference between what the Ran is talking about and that, because if a person stops in the middle of work, we're not happy about that, right? That's not the direction we want things to go. And there are also halachic implications to the fact that that's not the way you want things to go. There's a concept of taromet and choshen mishpat. You're allowed to stop in the middle of the work. You have that right, but it's not something we're positive about. It's not something we hope or expect. On the other hand, that is what we hope or expect in the context of the husband and wife, right? We want them to stop before Shabbat. You might say, okay, so what? So let's see. The Shvut Yaakov explains this.
What if there's a cost of stopping for Shabbat?
Oh,
I like a painter, so yeah, it's far easier for him to continue in Shabbat. He doesn't have to clean the brushes and then seal the cans, take away all the stuff that he needs to, and then open it back up and do everything back up, the preparation, whatever it is.
well, again, the painter won't be working on Shabbat.
Well, no, if you paid him to do something and he could, whatever, he's in a place painting and, it's not, maybe not in your house or whatever, but, you're not paying him for work on Shabbat. If he got there earlier, he would have gotten there earlier, but at this point now, it's easier for him to continue through Shabbat.
A painter would usually not have this kind of trouble because you pay him for the job, not for the time. Okay. Right. Okay. But you have to think of other examples where it's inconvenient. But I think Shvut Yaakov does assume that. You'll see over here. Sorry, page 9. דווקא האטם במורד על אשתו שקצבו חכמים קצבה לכל יום ויום ימי השבוע, כל זמן שמורד על אשתו, ואם יתפייס היום או למחר כרצון חכמים, להיות באהבה וחיבה האיש עם אשתו, מצטרפים ימי השבוע זה עם זה. לכן משורת הדין, כי מתחילה אין מוסיפין, כל שבוע יחד, רק לכל יום ויום בפני עצמו, שמתפייס. Meaning, you have to look at the other way around. We're saying it's a weekly, the math is done on a weekly basis, but really what we're doing is every single day, right? She's going to sleep by herself, right? They're separated right now, and someone's giving trouble, right? Every day we're saying, the question is, are we still in a fight? Is this going on? We want it to stop. We're interested in it ending. And that's why, in a sense, there's no way to ignore the daily basis. Since there's no way to ignore the daily basis, that's why it emphasizes that. That's what the Ran was emphasizing there about Shemait Bayes. He could change his mind whenever he wants, and we want him to change his mind any day. As opposed to the worker, Mashenken Bescharo lechodesh, אף שיכול לחזור בו, מכל מקום יש לו עליו תרומת על פי דין, וכל זמן שמרצה לשכירתו אינו חוזר בו. הרי מקרה עוולה ששכרו מתחילה יחד הוא מותר כמשמעות הפוסקים. When I hire someone for a month, I'm not thinking, well, will he come tomorrow? It's not the way we think about it. I'm not concerned about what's going to happen the rest of the month. He's going to come the rest of the month. Now, he might not. There might be trouble. Fine, there might. But that's not the way we think about the payment. The way we think about the payment is, before the month, I said, you're going to work for the month. And then at the end of the month, he worked and he got his salary. With the husband, every single day, the wife is asking, are we going to get back together again? And that's what says the Shvut Yaakov, you can't compare the two cases. So, and that's why, says Shvut Yaakov, the Ran didn't imply this. When the Beit Yosef, take a step back. Oh, sure. When Bedek Habayit says, again, Avraham says, what are you talking about? The Ran, you read the Ran. Says the Shvut Yaakov, yes, he read the Ran, but the Ran is talking about something else. The Ran is talking about something that really is looked at on a daily basis, as opposed to if I hire someone for a week or for a month. Even if you can find the calculation that makes it obvious that we're looking at a daily basis, that's not a reason to say, that doesn't justify saying it's not a monthly wage, and therefore it's okay. The poskim take this lekula. says שמעת שעה כהלכתה, מותר לקבל תשלום עבור עבודה בתקופה מסוימת, כגון חודש, שבוע או מספר ימים ובתוכם השבת, פה נקרא בפי חז"ל שכר שבת בהבלעה. ודברים אמורים, בשכירות מחייבת. You see, he emphasizes this idea in the Shvut Yaakov. שהשכירות היא כזו שבדרך כלל, המעביד והעובד חוזרים בהם בתוך הזמן. אם יחזרו בהם, לא יעשה חישוב השכר לפי מספר ימים שכבר עברו עד היום שחזרו בהם. So here he does the parentheses I wonder about. It sounds like he's not 100% happy with it, right? But the central concept is, are you expected to work for the whole month? And the answer is yes. Now, how many days in the month? That's details. But when you look at broadly speaking, we're looking at the month. We're not looking on a daily basis. As opposed to husband and wife, we're thinking of a daily basis. Every single day, or you can go to sleep by yourself, or you can get back together. בזכות שאינה מחייבת שיכולים מעביד ועובד לחזור בהם בכל עת שירצו ללא חשש תרומת מהצד השני, אזי יעשה חישוב השכר לפי מספר ימים עד לחזרה, אם זו הבלעה מותרת. And this is a very important point. Let's say you have someone who says, I'm taking a part-time job as a waiter, right? And the guy says, all right, I understand that you're looking for other jobs. You might be want to do other things. Come when you want, don't come when you don't want. At the end of the month, just for my books, for bookkeeping purposes, much easier for me to write out a check at the end of the month and sign it at the end of the month based on how many days you worked. That, would be a problem based on the Shvut Yaakov. Right? In other words, this doesn't mean that once you get a monthly wage, there are no issues. It means that as long as the contract, also the verbal contract, says you're going to work the whole month, so you're good for the month. Now, even if you could change your mind, you'll change your mind, but still, you're good for the month. That's on the if you are working, if something is on a daily basis, except the check is written on the month as a monthly on the monthly basis, that doesn't solve your problem, because every single day the question is, will he show up or not? And that's similar to the case of the husband, which means really you're looking on a daily basis. Oh, you showed up on Shabbat, good. I have to add more. And then we are thinking about, I'm adding money because of the Shabbat specifically. And not, this isn't I might write as a monthly check, but I am explicit about adding it on Shabbat, even if we never said anything, because that's the nature of our contract. The footnote is a big mess. I was going to say, I thought you were going to say something about this. I said, let's just see the footnote, and then we'll. So this footnote is a big problem. We mentioned at the end. I said I'll try to give answers today. So I owe you one. I'll have to owe explaining this footnote. The footnote here says, דד אפילו בהבלעה לא התירו לקחת תוספת שבת עבור עבודה שנעשתה בשבת, בכי הגוונה אין זו הבלעה. If you add more money because you worked on Shabbat, right? I know that I know several doctors who work abroad, right? They live in Israel, but they work abroad, and they're always gone Christmas time, right? Because that's when the big money comes in, right? Because none of the doctors there want to work over that time, so they go and work then, right? They make big bonuses, right? It sounds like it's definitely worth it. There are similar arrangements here in Israel, I imagine also in America, and Saturday and Sunday, right? If you're going to do in many fields, doctors, right? If they choose to do the Shabbos, often they'll get an added bonus, Shabbos bonus, right? No, not someone. I'm talking about the what?
Any government relationship with tariff is different
On Shabbos. Right. Most right. The vast majority of workers have a different tariff for, right? The difference is only, right, if they take me to be a scholar in residence somewhere, so yes, I'm going for Shabbat, but I don't have and I'll take more than, right, we're not looking at the Shabbos time, and then we have to subsume it in other ways, but it's not like, right, as opposed to there's a standard payment for a resident who's working on Shabbat in the hospital, or for a guard, or for, right, someone who's working in any of those fields, right, there's a standard amount, and then for doing it on Shabbat, you'll be getting more, generally speaking, right? Now, that seems to be a problem, right? Especially if sometimes you have it in the paycheck itself, right? He says you work 23 days, 2 of them were Shabbat, right? It's 23 days, this amount, and then 2 of them were, or I imagine doctors will be less, right? We're talking about 24-hour shifts, and I'm going to get to that in a moment, right? So you worked 12 days this month, 2 of them were Shabbat, so you add, another 1,000 shekel for each of the days, right? Or whatever it is, right? It's that seems to be a big problem. So I thought about this. How do we get out of it? So one part is going to be the schar mitzvah. Rav Carmel said, doctors, schar mitzvah. It's okay. You're saving Am Yisrael. So, or saving whoever. So, right. So that we're going to be at schar mitzvah shortly. I think that for the doctors, there's another solution, which is the following. We saw, I'm sure you all remember, but I'll mention it anyway. In Unit 10, 100 years ago, in Unit 10, we learned about people who would get interest from the banks based on a daily basis, or from interest from wherever, based on a daily basis. Rav Moshe was asked, it's a problem because if it goes by the daily basis, and as we saw in the Ran a moment ago, as we said in Shvat Yaakov, the most mekel shita in the Ran, if you took the manyar on Friday, would be different than you took the manyar on Sunday, right? So there really is a very explicit daily basis to that. How do we get out of? So I'm renting my money out, which is a problem, on Shabbat, and it's explicit, right? Says Rav Moshe there, it's not a problem because the way they count the days isn't the way we count the days. A doctor's shift, how does that work? When does it? When the 24-hour or 26-hour shift?
Israeli law, because we're such a Jewish state, defines Shabbat not as Saturday.
Oh, really? The Tosefet Shabbat would be different if you.
I mean, could be that you-
Oh no, I'm saying when what?
And according to 8 to 8.
Right.
So it's divided.
Right. So it's done from 8 to 8. That's what I thought.
Friday shift is used in the shift.
Okay, but still the Tosefet, you could subsume the Tosefet in the Friday time and the Motzei Shabbos time.
Yeah.
even if it's calculated in some hourly way. Somebody who works.
I'd have to look deeper into that. It's a good question. I don't know.
You mentioned before, like a shomer.
Right.
So shomer works.
Shomer would be more.
hourly shift. So
Yes.
Let's say that the Shabbat will include some time that is before or after Shabbat. It's also very much calculated based on hours.
Based on the hours. So based on the hourly rate, that would be. I have to think more. Those are two solutions I thought of. One is the schar mitzvah aspect, and the other is subsuming it in the other time. But I agree that this is a problem. I haven't figured it all out yet.